Welcome to Spatial Sight, reading the table before the cards. Hi there, I'm Dr. Rivka Edery, and this is a short introduction to a method I developed for reading the physical arrangement of a card layout before interpreting a single card. It's based on my book, Spatial Sight, the workbook. In the next few minutes, I'll give you the whole shape of it, the core idea, how a session works, and the discipline that keeps it honest. No experience needed. So if you're ready, let's begin. Here's the core idea and the first principle of everything. Read geometry before meaning. There's a line I keep coming back to. Every reader has a blind spot. It's not the card they misread. It's the 3 inches of empty table they never looked at. The physical arrangement of a layout, where cards land, how far apart they sit, and what space stays untouched, carries more information than the numbers on the cards. Not figuratively, structurally. The geometry is the first reading. Everything else is commentary. Remove this step and it is no longer spatial sight. Every layout carries 3 spatial signals before a single card is named. Distance, how far cards land from one another. The space between cards is a relationship. Separation, movement, or estrangement measured in inches, not impressions. Cluster, cards that land close together behave as one story. A cluster marks concentrated material, where the energy of the question has gathered. And void, the space that stays empty. What never entered the layout is data 2. The unexpressed, the not yet arrived, the deliberately absent. Learn to see these 3 and you're already reading. You record all of this on what I call the constellation map. The table is divided into 3 zones, and you plot the cards, clusters, isolates, edges, and voids, before turning anything over. Nearest you is your body, personal material, already part of your lived experience. The middle is the edge, material in transition, moving toward or away from you. The far zone is the field, what lies outside your control, and if it's empty, it simply hasn't entered the picture yet. You capture all of it in words, a geometry sentence, before a single card is turned face up. A full spatial sight session moves through 4 steps in order. 1, the somatic filter. Hands first. You shuffle slowly, attention on your hands, and pull only the cards that register physically. 3 to 7 cards, no more. 2, the constellation map. You trace the geometry and write it down before turning anything over. 3, the reading sequence. You interpret in fixed order. Cluster, then isolate, then void, and only then do card meanings enter. And 4, the session close. You disconnect, clear the deck, and reset your body. The field is closed. Let me say more about that first step, the somatic filter, because it's the heart of it. You're not choosing cards. You're registering which cards are already active. You're feeling for 3 things: the jolt, a sharp catch or resistance, distinct from the cards around it. Pull that card. the weight, a concentrated heaviness as if part of the deck grew denser, pull that one too. And the absence, flat, neutral, nothing. Those cards are never placed. You keep shuffling. That's the filter doing its job. The range is strict, 3 to 7 functional cards per session, never more. Using everything dilutes the signal. Now, this is the part that makes spatial sight different from guesswork. The honesty mechanisms. These are built-in guards against confirmation bias. The map freeze. The geometry is recorded first and cannot be revised once interpretation begins. The disconfirmation metric. Every session names in writing what would prove the reading wrong, and you score results against it later. Meaning lock. Card meanings stay out of the room until the structural work is done. And the late arrivals rule. Impressions that show up out of sequence are logged and time-stamped, not quietly folded into the reading. You're not asked to believe. You're asked to record. As you practice, you'll notice layouts fall into recurring shapes. This is a shared vocabulary, not a requirement, just a way to name what you see. The split, 2 distinct groups divided. The spine, cards falling in a line. The satellite, 1 card orbiting a cluster. The collapse, everything drawn to one point. And the solar system, a center with cards arrayed around it. Each shape has its own way of being read, but don't worry about memorizing these now. They'll become familiar with practice. Where does all this practice lead, you may be wondering? A 30-day practicum, 1 session a day, 3 phases, every entry scored. Days 1 to 10, calibration. You learn your own somatic signals. What does a jolt, a weight, an absence actually feel like in your hands before you trust any of them? Days 11 to 20, pattern recognition. You work with the spatial vocabulary in live sessions, naming the geometry quickly and precisely, and days 21 to 30, integration. Full sessions, start to close, with geometry, meaning, and disconfirmation working together as one continuous discipline. Now, let me welcome the hard questions, because this method was built around them. Question 1. Isn't this just finding patterns in randomness? Answer. Maybe. That's exactly what the method is built to test. Every session names in advance what would prove it wrong, then scores itself against real events. Random noise doesn't survive an honest log. Question 2. What if I'm making it all up? Answer. Ask it. It usually arrives around day 8. That question isn't a threat to this practice. It's a qualification for it. Sometimes the answer is yes. Some entries score as misses. That's not the method failing. That's the method working. Question 3. Won't I just remember the hits and forget the misses? Not if the structure does its job. The map freeze and the log are what prevent exactly that. A few more questions, because doubt isn't turned away at this table. It's given a seat and a job. You're a licensed clinician. Why card reading? Answer. 17 years of clinical training is precisely why the method looks the way it does. Record before interpreting, name your disconfirmation, keep the log honest. Discipline is the obligation that comes with the territory. Is it therapy? Can it answer medical or legal questions? No. Spatial sight is a reflective, intuitive practice, never a substitute for medical, psychological, legal, financial, or safety advice. Do I have to believe in anything for this to work? No. You're not asked to believe. You're asked to record. The belief, if it comes, will have earned its place. Let me close with what this is and isn't. Spatial sight is a reflective and intuitive practice, not a substitute for medical, psychological, legal, or financial advice. A useful signal is specific, somatically clear, recorded before interpretation, and later compared against observable information. So, write the geometry first. Delay interpretation. Name what would disconfirm your reading. Score it honestly. If you'd like to learn the full method, it's all in Spatial Sight, the workbook. 6 instructional sections, the 1-page method map, and a complete 30-day practicum. The table has been talking. This is how you learn to listen. Thank you so much for being here.